Tonight on Reporting Scotland, back to the future. The new Scotland boss returns to the job he walked away from 11 years ago.
I'm hoping that the Tartan Army can come to, I wouldn't say forgive me, but I hope they can come round and say, McLeish is right, he is the man for the job. Also on the programme, police are hunting for a man who raped a 13-year-old schoolgirl in Bannockburn. The cut-off communities starting their own buses as the country's network shrinks. One of Scotland's largest councils proposes free lunches every day of the year for children from low-income families. And speed skater Elise Christie picks herself back up as she goes for gold again. Good evening. After a 4-month search, Scotland finally has a new football manager. Alex McLeish is back 10 years after walking out on the role first time round for a job in England. He wasn't the first choice, but as our senior football reporter Chris McLaughlin has been finding out, the Scottish FA wouldn't explain why.
Scotland are going back to the future, and a familiar face has a familiar battle cry.
I'm up for the challenge. I believe I'm the right guy for the job.
A big smile, Mr. McLeish.
After a search that turned into a saga, he signed a 2-year deal. He wasn't the top target. He doesn't care.
If Michael O'Neill had taken it, he was the first choice. I accept that. But, you know, I see it as a bit of fate and it's meant to be.
What would you say to the fans? And there are a few dissenting voices. What would you say to those who say, he's been there, he walked away, he shouldn't be getting the job again, there shouldn't be any going back?
Yeah, I can understand that opinion can be divided, but it's up to me to try and get those guys on side. I'm hoping that the Tartan Army can come to, I wouldn't say forgive me, but I hope they can come round and say, McLeish is right, he is the man for the job.
McFadden going for goal! Scoring! Oh!
The highlight of his previous spell, Paris, James McFadden, and that famous 1-0 win over France. He took charge of Scotland and quit all in 2007, winning 7 games from 10. Before, it was Motherwell, Hibs and then Rangers, where he won 7 trophies in 5 years. He quit Scotland for Birmingham City. Between then, though, and 2016, it was a checkered career. He had spells at Aston Villa, Nottingham Forest, Genk and Zamalek in Egypt. So is the CV good enough?
I don't recommend him at all. I think he's the right man for the job.
His name was only mentioned just the other day there, now he's in there, but who else are they going to get to take the job?
He left under a bit of a cloud, didn't he? And he goes off to, where was it, Birmingham he goes off to. So, but then, folk make mistakes, don't they?
Alan, can you talk us through the process? Alan, can you talk us through the process?
Including the SFA, whose president today wasn't for answering questions.
Everybody has to pull together, and it's been far too long since we've qualified for a major tournament. Alex McLeish is the manager, so we all need to get behind him, regardless of what you think.
So the Scottish FA finally have their man. Much has been made of this appointment and of the process out there, but ultimately it will be judged by what happens in here. Are all the fans completely behind this? No. Will all be forgiven if Alex McLeish leads Scotland to Euro 2020? Absolutely. Chris McLaughlin, Reporting Scotland, Hampden Park.
The Scottish Football Association has come in for some harsh criticism over its search for a new Scotland manager. One former Scotland captain has described it as no longer fit for purpose. And there could be some difficult times ahead as the association grapples with more issues fundamental to the future of the game here. More from David Curry.
The Scottish FA has appointed a new national team manager, but it still faces plenty of other challenges, the most pressing of which is appointing someone to run the organisation following the resignation of Stuart Regan as chief executive at the start of this month.
Now, the good news for the chief executive when she or he comes in is that this is a free a free card, because if Alec McLeish, and we don't want this to happen, doesn't do well the chief executive can say, well, it's nothing to do with me. If Alec McLeish does really well, the chief executive can bask in that praise as well. But the whole reason for that difference in succession was they needed a quick solution. They needed to lance one Boyle.
Other issues, though, have still to come to a head, including finding a new main sponsor when Vauxhall's deal comes to an end in the next couple of months, and deciding whether to relocate international matches and cup finals to Murrayfield or to keep them at Hampden. Then there's the ongoing and at times uneasy relationship with the sport's other main body in this country, the Scottish Professional Football League.
There's always been tension in Scottish football, whether it was SPL back in the day and SFL with the Scottish FA. The most important thing that there's a common purpose, a common understanding to make the game better, both at the professional end but grassroots participation.
Well, the SFA probably isn't fit for purpose, but it won't change. You know, because the people that vote for change are the people that are in position just now, and they enjoy their position, they enjoy whatever goes with that position. You know, you get a president, the next president knows that he's going to be the next president, and it will go on and on and on.
The Scottish FA's current president, Alan McRae, played a big part in the new Scotland manager getting the job. The recruitment process wasn't exactly smooth, and with some big issues still to be resolved in the coming months, he and his board could be in for a rough ride. David Curry, reporting Scotland, Hampden.
Police are hunting for a masked man who raped a 13-year-old girl in Bannockburn near Stirling. Officers said the incident happened in a park last Saturday. They've described it as a terrifying attack and have stepped up patrols in the area. Andrew Black reports from the scene.
Dog walkers are an everyday sight in Bannockburn's Ladywell Park, but today there was also an obvious police presence after the rape of a schoolgirl. She'd been in the area with friends and was heading to a local shop by herself when her attacker struck.
Well, what we do know about this incident is that it happened between 6:30 and 7 o'clock at night last Saturday. The girl was walking here into the park where she was grabbed from behind, and then she was dragged a short distance into some bushes where she was sexually assaulted.
People come to visit Ladywell Park from across the Stirling area. Today, visitors expressed disbelief at what happened here.
But to me, it's shocking, like, it's for anything like that to be happening to a young lassie, eh? And it ruins a young lassie's life for the rest of her life, eh? Plus her family as well, you know.
Shocking. Yeah. Especially for this area, this is not like. Nothing like that goes on, eh?
It's 5'4" male.
Police have launched a major inquiry after the 13-year-old girl and her family came forward yesterday to report the attack. Officers also moved to reassure people living in the area.
These types of incidents are very rare in relation to a sexual attack of this nature, and not only in Stirling is it rare, but also nationally. But we've increased patrols in the area, and we would encourage anyone who sees the police out and about to approach them and provide any information that can assist us identify who this person is as quickly as possible.
Police say the attacker was 5'4" tall, well-spoken and wore dark clothing and gloves. He also took steps to cover his face before carrying out the assault. Meanwhile, detectives have been speaking to people in and around the park at the time of the attack. They hope this will help them focus the inquiry. Andrew Black, reporting Scotland, Bannockburn.
A Czech man has been found guilty of killing a Scottish tour guide in Lapland in Sweden in December 2016. Karol Freibel denied murder, claiming he had a temporary mental breakdown when he stabbed 26-year-old Rebecca Johnson from Fife. Psychiatric tests found that Freibel was in full control of his actions. He was given a mandatory life sentence in prison. Friends of a Scottish man missing in Germany say there have been further possible sightings of Liam Colgan. The 29-year-old from Inverness disappeared while on his brother's stag do in Hamburg last weekend. Witnesses have reported seeing a man matching Liam's description in a confused state who intimated he was from Scotland. A former volunteer at a children's home in Glasgow has been convicted of grooming and sexually abusing 3 children in care more than 30 years ago. 60-year-old Joe Duffy was found guilty of raping 2 sisters and sexually abusing a young boy at a home run by nuns in the 1980s. Duffy, who was a civilian custody officer with Police Scotland for 20 years, was remanded in custody and placed on the sex offenders register ahead of sentencing next month. There's been a call to reform Holyrood's payment system after a Scottish Government minister who quit over inappropriate behaviour received a golden goodbye. The payoff for Mark MacDonald is in line with the rules, but the opposition have called for a review and any money paid out to be returned. Our political correspondent, Andrew Kerr, joins me now. Andrew, is this standard procedure for a minister who leaves the government?
Yes, Sally, it is indeed a little-known process, but it follows the regulations set out in the Parliamentary Pensions Act. So when a minister steps down from government, they receive a quarter of their ministerial salary. That's about £7,000 in this case. Of course, Mr MacDonald will still receive his £62,000 MSP salary. Now, that was all set out, of course, when Mr MacDonald, of course, left office in November because he was resigning over allegations of inappropriate behaviour. He was the childcare minister. Now, he's not been available for comment today. The SNP said he was still suspended from the parliamentary party and the investigation was ongoing. But Labour and the Conservatives say, well, this system needs to be reformed.
It's quite clear that this has to be reviewed. The decision that has been taken that this money should be given as a payoff is something which we were calling to be reviewed. And I think it's time that we sorted our house out in Holyrood so that when these circumstances actually do occur, people do not get a payoff from resigning from office.
That said, Sally, though, however, the same system operates at Westminster with Damien Green and Michael Fallon, 2 cabinet ministers who resigned over allegations about their behaviour, receiving a similar severance payment. Now, we put it to the Conservatives that it could be hypocritical to comment on the MacDonald case but not on the Westminster cases. But Miles Briggs says he's an MSP and it's up to Holyrood to set its own rules. Well, the cross-party body which operates the Scottish Parliament will meet on Thursday to discuss reforms. If MSPs want to change the system, Sally, they have the power to do so.
Andrew Kerr, thank you very much. A Scottish MP has published a bill that would ban employers making people do unpaid trial shifts. The SNP's Stuart MacDonald says it would give people seeking work more protection. Unions report they're seeing more and more cases of unpaid trials. Our political correspondent Nick Eardley has more.
Another busy commuting day. Almost all of these people will be off to make a living. But would you work for free to prove you were up to a job? Meet Zoe, a student who worked an unpaid trial in a restaurant.
On the day it was very much OK, so you're now theoretically a member of staff, this is what the staff do, you'll be doing exactly the same as them, we expect you to work to exactly the same standard of them. So the phrase they used was just that, as if you've been doing it for ages. And they had me setting tables, cleaning tables, restocking the kind of food products, serving drinks. I wasn't even offered a break or a drink of water or anything. It was just full on for 6 hours. It was really tough.
All for no pay. And it's an issue campaigners are worried is getting worse.
We've seen a massive increase in the use of unpaid trial shifts, particularly in the hospitality and the restaurant industry, from family-run restaurants to large multinational corporations using unpaid trial shifts to cover absences within the workplace. If workers are sick, they're bringing in people to do up to 8-hour-long trial shifts with no intention of ever giving them a job.
This SNP MP wants them banned. Today he's publishing a bill he hopes will win enough support to become law.
This doesn't end competition, it doesn't end the ability of an employer to try people out. It just sets new rules and boundaries on how they do that.
The bill would mean employers have to spell out what jobs are available, guarantee feedback and, crucially, offer payment.
The employer has an obligation to pay that person at least the minimum wage.
The debate over unpaid trials boils down to one question: are they fair? Now, in the most extreme circumstances, it's easy to see why many view them as exploitation. But in other circumstances, some disagree. They think it's a chance for employers and potential employees to try things out. Industry bodies say that long unpaid trials are bad practice, but shorter options should be available.
What is normal is that in our industry to ask somebody to demonstrate their skill set as part of a recruitment or selection process. For example, a chef in a kitchen showing that he can actually cook something.
A spokesperson for the UK government said the law is already clear that it's illegal to employ people on unpaid trial work periods for an excessive period of time or where there's no job at the end of it. In the end, Zoe was offered the job after her trial, but she turned it down after being told she had to be available 7 days. She's clear in her mind. What happened wasn't fair.
I think it was total exploitation of a young person, really. And I think if I was to go back to that moment in time, I would have just walked out.
She's now got a job she's happy with, and no unpaid trial was involved. Nick Eardley reporting Scotland, Glasgow.
You're watching BBC Reporting Scotland. It's coming up to 7:15. A reminder of tonight's top story. The new Scotland boss returns to the job he walked away from 11 years ago. And still to come, one of Scotland's largest councils proposes free lunches every day of the year for children from low-income families. Scotland's bus network has shrunk to levels last seen in the late 1980s, BBC analysis has revealed, and fewer people are using the service. Rising car use and cuts to public funding are being blamed. Some cut-off communities have taken to starting their own services, as Graham Stewart reports.
For some, it's the only way of getting about. A community bus run as a charity and subsidised by public money, stepping in where private companies can't make a profit.
It's usually used by elderly people, so it allows them to get to the local shops and amenities, and also allows them to access other public transport routes. So it increases the patronage on those routes as well, so it helps all round.
A BBC investigation suggests that while the North East, Tayside and Central have seen an increase, bus networks have shrunk across most of Scotland over the past decade, down overall by 15%. So how do the operators account for this?
Car journeys, congestion, changes to society, people working more from home, more online shopping have all impacted on the number of bus journeys in our cities and areas in Scotland. These are things that, whether it's a regulated industry or deregulated industry, will not be addressed by that. It's things that we're going to need to work on and look at wider policies.
Once upon a time, Scottish buses were regulated. Each region's vehicles painted the same colour because they were owned by the same publicly run company. But in 1985, the Conservative government opened up the market to private competition.
Deregulation saw the majority of buses taken out of public control, the idea being that competition would drive down fares and reduce the need for public subsidies. But critics say it simply led to private firms cherry-picking the most profitable routes.
Might the railways provide a better model, where one company bids for a bundle of routes and uses the profitable ones to help pay for those which lose money? That's just one of the options being considered by the Scottish Government. It's also looking at new laws to give councils more options to improve the services in their own areas. We should hear more about those plans in the coming months. Graham Stewart, reporting Scotland, Glasgow.
One of Scotland's largest councils is to consider providing free lunches to children from low-income households on every day of the year. North Lanarkshire is the first local authority in the UK to discuss a plan like this. The council says the scheme would help tackle what it calls weekend and holiday hunger. Here's our education correspondent, Jamie McIver.
A free school meal can make a big difference to a child and a big difference to the family budget. Electronic systems mean you can't tell now who does or doesn't have to pay. But teachers say they notice the difference a good meal can make.
I think it's well documented now how important a nutritious meal is for our children. It affects behaviour and learning. We want our children to be healthy in body and in mind.
But at the weekend and during the holidays, the children eligible for a free meal don't get one. Now the local council is to consider providing free meals 365 days a year, a first in the UK.
We know that low-income families struggle to feed their children over the holiday period, and that can result in significant increase in malnourishment, which has an impact on cognitive development and attainment. There are a lot of authorities that are looking and doing great work on tackling holiday hunger, but we have to look beyond that. We have to look at weekends as well.
The scheme would cost £500,000 a year. Free lunches would be provided at facilities like sports centres when schools are closed. Up to 16,000 children could get a free meal, but a limited pilot scheme at Easter will help establish just what the demand will actually be. Nationally, there's evidence more people turn to food banks over the school holidays. Anti-poverty campaigners are welcoming the council's plan, but say there must be no sense of discrimination.
What will be really important is to ensure there's no stigma attached to that, and that healthy lunches are part of a wider programme of school holiday activities, and that all children are able to participate in those activities, even if they're paying for their school lunch.
The scheme could be in full operation by the summer. One challenge will be to prove over time that free meals all year is the best use of scarce council resources. Jamie McIver, reporting Scotland.
News from the Winter Olympics now, and after the disappointment of crashing out of the 500 metres final, world champion speed skater Elise Christie says she's determined to enjoy the moment of tomorrow's 1500 metres. But there's been more disappointment for Scott's medal hopes as Andrew Musgrave failed to hit top form in cross-country skiing. From South Korea, here's Alistair Lamont.
Here is Andrew Musgrave of Great Britain. Is he at the beginning of a 15-kilometre journey that will bring him the glory that he has sought for so many years?
He'd hoped this would be his big moment, the day a British skier finally won an Olympic medal. But Andrew Musgrave never threatened the leaders, finishing 28th.
Yeah, it was a bit of a shocker. I don't know, I just felt heavy the whole way around and like never got going, was never up at the pace I needed to be at, and just like, yeah, it was just a pretty bad day in general.
Well, no disgrace up here in the mountains for Andrew Musgrave, but certainly disappointment, especially after his performance at the weekend in the skiathlon had hinted that he might well be in medal contention here today. But in the end, he was well off the pace, and so British and Scottish medal hopes turn back to Elise Christie. She's back in action once again tomorrow in the Gangneung Ice Arena.
Things didn't finish well for her there on Tuesday. Her attempt to win gold in the 500-metre short track ending only in tears. But she's in a better frame of mind ahead of her next event, the 1500 metres, which starts tomorrow.
I am relaxed. I'm not relaxed on race day, but around it, there's no point in being stressed all the time. There was a quote sent to me actually, and I can't remember the exact words, but it said something along the lines of, you've got to enjoy this moment because you don't know how many moments you have left. And yeah, so I'm just focused on enjoying it and having fun at the same time as trying to win. That's all I can do out here.
As world champion over this distance, there's no reason why Christie can't turn earlier disappointment into glory. Alistair Lamont reporting Scotland at the Winter Olympics in South Korea.
Scotland take on England in the Six Nations next week, hoping to banish memories of last season's record 61-21 defeat at Twickenham. As part of the preparations, the Scotland squad had an open training session for fans in head coach Gregor Townsend's hometown of Galashiels. There for us was Andy Burke.
Back to where it all began. Gregor Townsend started his rugby journey right here at Netherdale. Today he returned as head coach of his country.
I think it was Al Kelly's idea, who works with the Scottish Rugby commercial team, and he said, what about going to Gala? I said, that'd be brilliant. 15 minutes from my house, and back obviously at the club that I played in, and to see so many people coming today is a big thrill.
Over 1,500 fans turned out to watch their heroes being put through their paces.
Well, amidst the fun, there's some serious preparation going on for Scotland here today. After all, England, the defending Six Nations champions and the #2 team in the world, are heading for Murrayfield next week.
But we're going up against England, who have started the tournament really well, and for the last, for as long as I can remember, playing some outstanding rugby, so it's going to be tough there.
We do realise the importance of this fixture for our public, our supporters, for the nation. And we realise the importance because England are a top quality team, but it's the next game that you're working out a way to win.
Scotland go into the Calcutta Cup match as huge underdogs, but the natives of Galashiels may just fancy one of their favourite sons to mastermind a famous upset. Andy Burke, reporting Scotland, Galashiels.
Now let's get the weekend weather forecast from Judith.
Thank you very much, Sally, and a very good evening to you. Well, actually, the afternoon turned out to be quite peaceful, quite quiet, and indeed we saw some lovely sunshine for parts of eastern Scotland. Here we are, some azure blue skies are in the background, sent in by one of our weather watchers. And as far as the coming weekend is concerned, it's a quiet spell of weather. Yes, we'll see some rain at times, but nothing too dramatic in the forecast. That's exactly what we're going to see tonight. Starts dry for much of the country, but a band of rain already gathering force in the west will make its way across the country as we head through the evening and into the early night. And behind it, it clears away. It becomes confined to southeast Scotland, the Edinburgh area, and we'll see some showers falling on into the west, any snow confined to the hills. So clearer skies as well. Still quite chilly, lows typically of 2 to 4 Celsius, but down close to freezing in some of the glens. A brisk wind for the northwest initially, but that will ease. So tomorrow we see that cloud and rain in the southeast clearing away quickly, and it does brighten up nicely. It'll be a lovely day actually for a good part of southern and eastern Scotland. Still a rash of showers for more western areas, the northwest Highlands in particular. But for the afternoon, it's a case of showers and some brighter sunny spells in between for Orkney, for Shetland. Good sunny spells, I think, for the Grampian area. Generally for eastern Scotland, very few showers here, and we'll see some pretty good spells of sunshine for southern Scotland as well. For the west, 1 or 2 showers, but actually as we head through the day, those showers ease. We'll see more in the way of brightness coming through in between times. And I think by the end of the afternoon, we should see some good spells of sunshine for the Western Isles. So if you're thinking of heading to the hills tomorrow, western ranges will be windy at the tops. There'll be quite a strong southwesterly winds, eventually veering into the west and easing, but factor in the cold temperatures. There'll be a significant wind chill. 1 or 2 wintry showers, fewer showers in the east, good sunny spells here, but again windy at the tops, and it will feel cold, but great visibility for eastern ranges. So tomorrow, as we head through towards the evening, any showers dying away, dry and clear for a time, before we see clouds starting to increase across more western areas. A signs of quite a significant change. You can see we have this warm front approaching from the Atlantic. Now, if we take the warm air that's going to feed in across Scotland, it's coming in across cold ground. We're going to see a lot of mist and murk and cloud on Sunday, I should say, along with outbreaks of drizzly rain. The best chance of anything brighter will be towards Caithness and the Northern Isles, but notice these temperatures significantly milder into double figures by the end of the day. Monday, we'll see a band of rain crossing the country. It does brighten up for the afternoon, but again, those temperatures mild. That's your forecast.
Thanks very much, Judith. And that is Reporting Scotland. I'll be back with the headlines at 8 and the late bulletin just after the 10 o'clock news. Until then, have a very good evening. Bye-bye.